7 straight losses now for the Minnesota Wild, and the season has gone so far off the rails, it's starting to affect me physically. We'll discuss whatever it is that we continue to see for this Minnesota Wild team. Plus, what are we building towards now? All of that and more on today's episode of Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Brandon Duham, and this is Locked on Wild.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any of our new episodes throughout the week. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, Alex Micheletti joins us to recap yet another loss. We'll talk about the call for more positivity amongst the Wild media, as well as playing a game of buyer's remorse. All of that coming up on what should be a joy-filled episode here of Locked on Wild. My name is Seth Topol, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, and as mentioned, the season's starting to take a toll on me physically, but we're going to tough it out, and joined as always by Alex Micheletti, who keeps coming back despite the fact that we're now like 7 straight weeks without a victory Micheletti Monday. And the latest effort featured, I guess, take your pick. Hideous special teams, inability to score in 5-on-5, just so many penalties, continuing to further expose the special teams. More of the same. And so now we are 19 games into this season. I actually went back and did the math. This is the second worst start through 19 games in franchise history. And the only season that was worse was the inaugural season. And as you noted on Twitter, Alex, the Wild are now, they have the second fewest wins in the league. They have their 30th in the NHL in points. I think we have moved past the point of a slow start to the Titanic has hit the iceberg, and now we're scrambling to try to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, I mean, what can they do? It's crazy. I mean, I never in my wildest dreams thought that they'd be close to having a double-digit losing streak this season. I knew things were probably going to be a little bit different this year than last year, but still, this is blowing expectations in the worst way. It's crazy. I don't know. It seems like the locker room is just completely lost right now. It's frightening.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going to use the Titanic metaphor, because some people can see the iceberg coming from far away. Others look at the iceberg and say, that's not going to be a problem. We're the Titanic. What could go wrong? And there are some that are jolted up violently from their sleep at the impact of said iceberg. And I was thinking about this on my drive home. There is a fundamental question that I think every franchise every general manager should have at the base of what they are doing. What are we building towards? And it can be a different thing for every team. For teams like the Vegas Golden Knights, Colorado, Dallas, what are we building toward is winning a Stanley Cup during your contention window. For Vegas, it's, hey, we're trying to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. That's what are you building toward? For teams like the Chicago Blackhawks, for teams like Anaheim, for teams along that line, what are we building toward is figuring out the pieces of our next core. Chicago's trying to figure out who they're building around Connor Bedard with. San Jose, what are we building toward is high draft picks. We're trying to get more high draft talent to build into this roster. Why does it feel like the Minnesota Wild's what are we building toward is still 2020, 2021? because it feels like every move that has been made since has been made with the assumption that they're just going to be able to run back what clearly was the best version of this roster that we could possibly get. And everything since then has just featured a return to the normal for all of those players. And despite that, all of them have been locked in. All of them have been given trade protection. And so I feel like for this Minnesota Wild team, what the assumption was is that we're building towards 2025, 2026, when the money comes off the books, when we'll have more roster flexibility to be able to make some moves. Now I feel like it's been pushed 2 years into the past, and there is no vision for what this team needs to do going forward.
It's very scary, isn't it, to think that it's gotten to this point. It's unbelievable, and the way they lose games too. It just they find just different ways to lose every game, right? It's it's unbelievable. Even even against inferior opponents, backup goaltenders, they just, even when they're fully healthy now, they are still losing games. It didn't matter when guys got back, and you have superstars, you have the highest paid guys on the roster are not producing, and guys seem to be coasting with their no movement clauses. They're like, hey, you can't put me on waivers, you can't trade me unless you ask me, and I'm not going to move because I want that money. So yeah, it's it's like they have a trap on Billy Guerin, but Bill Guerin gave them that trap too. So
it reminds me so much of when Andrew Wiggins, and I know people are like, hockey show, why are you talking about other sports? But the parallels amongst the other things that have happened with these Minnesota teams, I think are important to mention. And this reminds me of Andrew Wiggins getting his mega deal with Glenn Taylor, because Glenn Taylor wanted Andrew Wiggins to promise him that he was going to be better. And what did we see after not 2 seasons ago, but last year? What did we see before last season started? Was Bill Guerin was asked, what is going to happen with all these guys that had these career years? How are you going to replace Kevin Fiala's production? Well, these guys are just going to have to go and do it again. And guess what? They didn't, because what we saw 2 years ago was a stretch from the norm, not the norm.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here? It's just like, are they just not believing in Dean anymore? Is that the issue? That it seems we talked off air. Guys are just checked out, and that's really that's embarrassing when we're just at Thanksgiving too.
Yeah,
to be checked out already is not good at for these guys are pro athletes too. It's and we talked off air too. There was a couple of guys today. I mean, Marcus Johansson, it's like he's doing cardio out there. He literally was out there for double-digit minutes, 12 minutes. He didn't have a shot on goal or a block shot. So you're just out for a stroll. I mean, you can't make it up. Freddie Gaudreau, same thing. It's like, what are we doing here? Guys that have longer term deals now, and it's bad. And we got Marcus Foligno, all these guys that just got extensions, and they're not doing a single thing, and they're here for multiple years. So you can't get rid of these guys either.
No.
So they're stuck.
We're going to play buyer's remorse at the end of the show, because I've got some stats that are going to make what you just said pretty eye-opening. But again, like you hit it exactly on the head. Like, you look at what happens on a game-by-game basis. It was the same thing against Detroit. Alex Goligoski gets called for a penalty immediately, and you go on the penalty kill, and guess what? The penalty kill still is bad. And as Russo said, he tweeted, at some point, something's got to give because these are your main penalty guys and they are just incapable of. I said at one point, you should just give them a sword. It's like they're fencing out there. They're jabbing so much with their sticks, trying to make plays and staying stationary. But then the other part of it too is when Russo says something's got to give, we're 19 games into the season.
Right. That's embarrassing that early. And the penalties are coming at the worst times of the game too. Like at the end of power plays, and penalties immediately right at the game. It just you throw off your entire game plan when you're already on the penalty kill 5 minutes into the game, and they're going up against some really good power plays. Detroit has some phenomenal players, and you look at Shane Gostisbehere, he had a 4-point game. He was incredible.
David
It must
Perron.
be, a wild killer. He got his. He had 2 goals a day, and he got his 300th goal in the NHL. It seems like he's been in the league for ever. It's amazing. He just always plays well against the Wild, and the Wild were going up against a backup goaltender in Alex Lyon, who had only played a couple games, and they made him look like Dominic Hasek. It's so frustrating.
That was the same story against Colorado on Friday. Is Joel Eriksson Ek, who is one of the few guys on this team that continues to work on a nightly basis, gets his teeth knocked out. And so the Wild get a 4-minute power play, and like a minute in, they end up getting called for a penalty. And guess what? 30 seconds later, they get called for another one. And so you go from having a golden opportunity to score a 4-minute penalty, golden opportunity, double minor. You go from having an opportunity to really pull that game back in your favor, and you commit penalties, and then you complain after the game about the fact that the refs are out to get you. Guess what? There's bad officiating in every game. It's not a Minnesota Wild exclusive problem.
And you have to overcome it. I tweeted out on Friday, this team does not handle adversity very well. They just let the refs get in their heads, and then it just affects the rest of their game. And when you're in a losing streak like this, you can't let it happen, because then it just compounds. It keeps going and going. I mean, this thing is dangerously close to a double-digit losing streak. I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined, because this team has been so competitive, even with the buyout issues that are going on.
That was a source of pride for this team, is that they are not as talented as the other teams that they play, but by God, they are going to outwork you. And that is nowhere to be found this year. And we'll talk a little more about the officiating, because now Ryan Hartman is going to miss a few games with what he did against Detroit. And that stems from what he did against Chicago or against Colorado. So we'll talk about all that and the call for less negativity. You can't make it up. We'll talk about the call for less negativity as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Collective. If you're running a business of one, you're wearing many hats in your day-to-day. With Collective, bookkeeping and accounting don't need to be one of them. You can start saving thousands of dollars and hours of your time by letting Collective handle your business paperwork. Collective is the #1 financial solution for freelancers, contractors, and self-employed entrepreneurs that lets you focus on your passion, not your paperwork. Collective knows that if your business of one makes over $80,000 a year, you will find the most value from their services. Join the thousands of solopreneurs who have saved an average of $10,000 per year on taxes with their structure. Right now, Collective is offering a 1-month free and no onboarding fee when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's a $550 value for free when you go to collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. That's collective.com/LockedOnNHL and tell them Locked On NHL sent you. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. You may have noticed that we've gone back to live premieres. Well, there is a reason for that, because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, and there is one for Minnesota too. So go to Locked On Sports Minnesota to get your Minnesota sports fix 24 hours a day. Continuing our chat with Alex Micheletti today, and Alex, there has been a call for less negativity around the Minnesota Wild so far this season. I'm going to read the full quote that came from the Wild, from Dean Evison more specifically, after practice, at the beginning of practice yesterday. We had a good chat with the group today, and I don't know what you guys are writing or talking about, but everything's absolutely negative around everything. But we can't be negative. If we just continue to stay that way, then we're not going to get out of this. We have to have a little pushback and have a little, I don't want to swear. You've got to have some fight in order to get out of this. What have we lost? 6 games in a row? Now 7. We lost 6 games in a row. Now 7. It can't continue. We have to believe that it's not going to, but we have to do things in order to push ourselves to get out of this. And our group will do that. I have full confidence. We as a staff and management have full confidence that the players that were on the ice today with Moose and Flower who didn't practice will get out of this. I mean, I'm going to give a shout out to the people that cover this team from a media perspective. Russo, Joe Smith, Jesse, Judd, Locked On Wild, all of the others, everybody at the Star Tribune, all the people that take the time to cover this team on a daily basis and put in time to give some of the greatest coverage that you're going to find anywhere in the United States from a hockey perspective. There's so much good coverage of this team. And some of the other podcasts, that we work with more closely, the Soda Pod, Bar Down Beauties, Sound the Foghorn. There are so many good sources of content for this team in this state. I promise you, if the stuff, I'm very close. So I'm trying to keep myself from absolutely losing my mind. If the play went from, if the play shifted to, we're giving it everything we have and it's still not enough, I promise you the coverage of this team would be infinitely different than watching this team continue to lose in the same ways on a game-to-game basis.
Yeah, right. It's unbelievable.
I don't know what to say, because I don't like this. I don't like stewing in the negativity. I think anybody that's listened to Locked On Wild long enough knows that we pride ourselves in pointing out the good as opposed to stewing in the bad. But we've talked at length about the bright spots on this team, and it's a short list. It includes Brock Faber, Marco Rossi. You can put Joel Eriksson Ek on that list. We've covered that at length.
You have to be honest.
This stuff continues to happen, and so we're going to continue to point it out until it's fixed.
And they better, the people in management and the coaching staff, they better figure it out very soon here, or else they might be out of a job, and it's awful. I mean, look at Darby's been here a long time, and you would hate to see him have to pack his things and go. But it's just getting to a point here where it's there's a huge disconnect, and it's it's not just it's not just one position. It's everybody on the team. The goalies, they aren't stopping the puck right now either.
Nope.
A lot of people are saying, hey, it's what's in front of them, but the goalie at the end of the day has to stop the puck too, and both of them aren't doing that.
The way you win games is having your goalie stop goals above what's expected. The Wild did that last year. Philip Gustafsson, 31 goals saved above what was expected. That won this team games. He's in the negative territory right now. Marc-Andre Fleury is as well. You've got 2 goalies in the bottom 6 in the entire NHL in terms of goals saved above expected. And so regardless of what's going on in front of you, at the end of the day, it's on the goalie to make the saves.
100%. And they only have one defenseman really that's changed, and Matt Dumba being on this team right now, it wouldn't make a difference.
No, because he's been healthy scratched in Arizona now too.
Arizona, out of all places too, that continues to struggle defensively too. It's not like they have all world defensemen in the desert, so that tells you all you need to know too.
And you talk about some of the tactical things, which is why Dean Evason ultimately is going to get booted, because the tactical things that are going on with this team are not great. You'd have 3 postseasons with Dean as head coach: Vegas, Dallas, St. Louis. You got outcoached in all three, because you continue to just hammer away at your system. And you look at some of the things that continue to go wrong with this team. This team is one of the most penalized teams in the league. And so you better be damn sure that you've got a good penalty kill. Because guess what? Colorado does. Colorado is penalized more than the Wild are this season. And they have a penalty kill that is just under 90%.
Yeah, it's incredible. And they put their top players on their penalty kill too, and it's incredible. You see Cale Makar out there, you see Nathan McKinnon, Rantanen. It's and then you have veterans like Andrew Cogliano, who's been in this league forever. Yeah, it's impressive what they do.
And Brett pointed it out in one of his tweets, the tactical things that Jared Bednar is doing. Jared Bednar is one of the best coaches in the NHL, right, bar none.
He was the road coach too. What Brett put out too. It was for when you're at home and you have the last change and you're still getting out coached by the road coach. That's saying a lot.
And you continue to see Zach Bogosian and John Merrill get paired up with Kirill Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello and Marco Rossi, which is doing you nothing.
Change. Yeah, last change.
It's doing you nothing. And there were people that were saying, well, that's done so that you can hide that pairing and get more of a matchup for Brodin and Faber against the Makar line. And I get all of that, but I guarantee you that third pairing is doing no favors for your top line. Cale Makar is playing with Nathan McKinnon all the time.
Right. And you create offense, the back end helps create that offense, and when you have a third pairing with the top forwards, it's just, there's that disconnect too. It's just they're not used to playing with that, that skill of guys all the time. And in the third pairing that the Wild have, neither of them are offensive defensemen either. So it's like they're not going to help generate offense at all.
You got a third pairing that's playing roughly 10 minutes per night. So you're overloading. Look at the minute count in the game against Detroit. You had Jonas Brodin playing 26 minutes. Brock Faber played 21. Jared Spurgeon played 24. Jake Middleton played 16. And then Alex Goligoski and Zach Bogosian each played over 11 minutes. 11:05 for Goligoski, 11:38 for Bogosian. On the offensive side, Matt Zuccarello played 22 minutes. Kirill Kaprizov played 25 minutes.
That's way too much.
And you have a fourth line that consists of Connor Dewar and Brandon Duhaime, who I think a lot of people in this fan base feel like could be doing more. And you have stuck them at 8 minutes per game. And I mean, I wouldn't want to be pigeonholed into that type of a role. So
No.
why would I stay? Those are
Both of those guys are free agents too.
the
Yeah.
only players on this team that are movable are the bottom line, which are the guys we like, and Kirill Kaprizov until this offseason. Then he's not movable.
This front office just handed out no movement clauses like candy, and some of the guys are playing like they have those no movement clauses because they say, "Hey, nothing can happen to me, nothing can happen to me," and that is setting a bad precedent for this team going forward too, and it's you're gonna regret handing those out. It's just there's nothing more you can say about that, and you know, other teams are just gonna, they see the Wild on their schedule and they're gonna
Lick
be
their
like,
chops. They lick
yes,
their chops. I'm going to put my bib on, get my fork and my knife, and we are going to eat. Because all you have to do is get the Wild frustrated, and they're going to commit a ton of penalties, and you can just feast on that penalty kill.
and the Wild, even that Dallas game, they gave up multiple shorthanded goals too. So it's not. I mean, even if the teams are shorthanded, they have a good chance at scoring too. So the special teams as a whole it's just a nightmare.
St. Louis has one of the worst power plays in the NHL. I'm going to guarantee you right now. And if this ends up happening, I will pull this audio and play it back after the game on Tuesday. I guarantee you right now that the St. Louis Blues will score multiple power play goals on Tuesday.
They're playing a lot better. They are playing a lot better, and they have highly skilled guys. It's not like they don't have highly skilled guys. You look at Jordan Kyrou, you look at Pavel Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, Torrey Krug. I mean, Justin Falk. The list goes on and on. Of Kevin Hayes. They have guys that know how to put the puck in the back of the net, and so they cannot wait to get on the power play, even if they've been struggling. They've some of these guys they've won a cup. They know what it takes, and they know when they are down in the dirt how to get themselves out of it because they've been there. And some of the people that we talk to on social media are maybe comparing this Wild team to the Blues team that won the cup a few years ago. That is not the case at all. I don't see Fleury or or Gustafsson turning into prime Bennington. I don't see it.
Nope. So on the topic of not knowing what to do with some of these immovable contracts, we're going to play buyer's remorse as we finish today's episode. Look, here we are being negative, and I promised we weren't going to do that.
You have to be honest, folks.
Yeah, sorry about it. We'll finish today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities, whether it be Marco Rossi getting to the 20-goal plateau this season or the Vegas Golden Knights hoisting the Stanley Cup for a second straight season. Wouldn't that be nice? And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether stud players like Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, Sidney Crosby, or Nathan McKinnon will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, or more in a given game. Entries are so easy you can do them in under 60 seconds. And you can play daily fantasy NFL, NBA, MLB, and college football on Sleeper too. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Coming up for you here the rest of this week, we're going to look at the draft because, I mean, at this point, what do you say?
In December.
We're taking a look at the draft in December because as of right now, the Minnesota Wild have the second fewest wins in the NHL behind the San Jose Sharks. Yes, they're behind Chicago. They're behind Columbus. They're behind Anaheim. And so we are going to play buyer's remorse because all these contracts, and I will heap some praise because amongst the extensions, Matt Zuccarello is putting points on the board. And in the month of November, he has more points combined than Matt Boldy, Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno, and Marcus Johansson combined. He has 12 points. Matt Boldy has 6, but he has none in the last 4 games. Ryan Hartman has 2 points on 1 goal and 1 assist. Marcus Foligno, 2 assists. Marcus Johansson, 2 assists. That's it. And so I ask you, Alex, of the extensions, Zuccarello, Hartman, Foligno, Johansson, Boldy, which one are you most concerned about?
I'm really concerned about the Matt Boldy one. He's not looking like a $7-8 million player at all. It's very concerning. I don't know what's going on with him. It seems like he's in his head, and I don't know how he pulls himself out of it. The Foligno one is scary too because he's going to be 33 in March, and it's only going to get, he's not going to get faster, and you're going to be paying him a lot of money for a guy that is he going to get to 10 goals? Like, in that,
what does he have right now? 2?
Yeah. I mean, and you're paying that guy that amount of money, and he's going to be on your third line. It's just, what are we doing here? And Freddie Gaudreau too. That one is really, really, really tough. Where did he deserve to get that long of a contract? It's just like, what are we doing here with that one too? I mean, I'm concerned with a lot of, at least Zuccarello is, is producing.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of them that these guys are going to be in their mid 30s, and these guys weren't fast. I mean,
no,
Marcus Johansson is, but I don't know. He just doesn't shoot the puck. He's out there doing cardio. Him and Freddie Gaudreau, they're just out there skating. It's frustrating. And you take a look at, it was down to probably Gus Nyquist or Johansson, and they chose Johansson, and
I know
that was a mistake.
I know Nyquist has 2 goals, but I think he's got 17 points, unless he scored since the last time I looked. Yeah. Okay, so he's got another goal.
He's playing on their top line with Philip Forsberg.
He's got more goals and points than Marcus Johansson. So
yeah, he's on their top power play. And they've won 5 in a row now too. They beat a hot Winnipeg team. And
play them on Thursday.
Right. So yeah, look out. And UC Saros is back to being one of the best goalies in the league. He went through a really rough patch, but I don't know. You see them, and when they get on the power play, Roman Josi cannot wait. He always kills the Wild. Always.
Seems like there's one player on every team that just kills.
That's Roman Josi. And it's when the Wild play the Blues on Tuesday, it's Braden Shen. He gets in the wild head, and that's a guy that look out for that, So yeah, oh man, remember the fights from last season? That's gonna, they remember that, and Bennington will probably be in that too.
Honestly, I would take that because you know what that would signify is that there is a pulse,
right?
If you end up getting in 5 fights in the game against the Blues, that's fine. Let some frustration off. Show that you care. That's the thing that's frustrating. And this is the disconnect. Matt Zuccarello talked about this earlier this season. It's like these guys obviously care, but it doesn't look like it on the ice. And let's talk about the Bill Guerin master plan a little bit, because we hear about how all these players want to stay here because the vibe is good, the culture's good, and that's great. But you could have gone into this season with all of these players wanting to stay and say, okay, prove it. Prove that you are capable of playing at the level that you did 2 seasons ago. Because now what you could have done with this type of a start is you could have got something for these guys and said, we will try to, if you're performing well, if you're playing well, we'll try to sign you back at the end of the season. But you double down on it by not only retaining everybody, but also putting them in a position to where they can't be moved. And so now in a situation in which you should be in a quick sell mode the rest of this season, the guys that you can move include John Merrill, Zach Bogosian, although I'm not even sure there because he was already traded. So can you trade a player multiple times in a season?
Yeah, I've never seen it, but yeah, that'd be crazy.
So it's
yeah.
Merrill, it's Bogosian, it is Brandon Duhaime, it's Connor Dewar, it's Pat Maroon.
Right. And what are you going to get back for those guys? I mean, a 7th round draft pick, that's not going to help you at all. I mean, that's really tough. And other teams see the tape on some of these guys too. Who's going to want Alex Goligoski? Who's going to want John Merrill? They're slow. They're ineffective. They don't bring anything on offense. I don't care if Alex Goligoski was on the power play today. They bring, which, what are we doing there, by the way? He played over 2 minutes in power play time for a guy that's coming off of a broken leg. And it's just and he immediately takes a penalty. Just what it was when you saw him in the box, it was like, here we go. Against a fast Detroit team too. I mean, so we talked about it all this time this summer too. Other teams see the tape and they don't want the bad energy coming into this, into their locker room. the Wild, they don't want the stench of the Wild in their locker room. It's bad. For a guy that with his master plan too, they're getting great drafts, but none of these prospects, they can't be on the team because there's literally no spots. And then you go into this summer and there's basically two or three spots open.
3 spots. If you don't retain, again, players that serve, I think, as more of one of a few of the hardest working players on the team in Brandon Duhaime, Connor Dewar, and I'll throw Pat Maroon in there too. His production has started to drop, but again, why are you expecting that he's going to be one of the top producing guys on this team?
At 35, going to be 36,
And so those are the spots that you have, and so then you are pigeonholing prospects in to 4th line roles because
they don't want to be in too.
You need to put somebody there. You can't afford to sign anybody. And so then you're playing prospects like 8 minutes a night, which who is that helping?
No. We saw it with Marco Rossi. It was not working when he was on the 4th line there. So yeah, it's a mess, and you got some highly skilled guys that are on their way, and they don't want to be, it's turning into where they could be an Adam Beckman and just get lost in Iowa.
Lost in the shuffle.
And poor Adam Beckman, he makes too much money for them to come up because of the buyouts. Even with the buyouts and you can barely afford to have low salary guys. He still makes too much for being a low salary guy. It's got to be so frustrating for him and his agent too, because this would be the perfect opportunity for him to be on this team, and he still makes too much, even though it's not a lot of money.
Yeah. And now Iowa's lost Iowa's lost 5 in a row.
Yeah.
So
It's, poor Jesper. It can't be all his fault too, but
no,
they just don't have anything down there either.
they're hurt.
Yeah.
They're injured. They're hurt,
And
which the Wild were. And
you
now the
call up
Wild are
Coast guys, and that's not going to help at all. So I mean, the AHL is the second best league in the world, and then you got Coast guys coming up to play in that, and they're just not on that level. And so
no.
yeah, the entire organization, it's just a real rough patch. I don't remember the last time them being like this. It's
2000, 2001
yeah,
is the last time.
right.
And
yeah,
that was a collection of players put together in an expansion draft.
right.
This is a collection of players that was hand picked.
Yes, and you have some guys making a ton of money that just aren't doing anything.
But hey, Kirill Kaprizov has looked better.
Yes.
So there's your
that's the glimmer of hope that you're hoping continues into this week and into December, that Kirill is looking like the Kirill that we know he can.
There's your glimmer of positivity for this episode, because when we move to the how do we fix this, I have no idea. I don't, because we've screamed every point
right
that needs to improve, and we've heard from the coaching staff and the players that there needs to be improvements. And here we are in game 19, losing for the same reasons that we did in game number 2. So I don't know, because I'm not predicting them to win either game until we talk again next week. There are 3 games. I'm not predicting them to win any of them.
How can you? Even Chicago, which is scary to think. Chicago, all they have is Bedard. They're in a bad place. They just sent Corey Perry away. Yeah, it's the vibes are not good in Chicago either. So, and that game is on at what, 1:00 on a Sunday. The vibes for that are the lowest of lows for both teams coming into that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. And we do it as a service. We do this honestly because of all the listeners and all the interaction. And
Passionate fan base, one of the best in the league.
We're going to continue to try to figure out what to do about this. But as this continues, it shifts from how do you fix this season to what are you building towards? And so maybe that's the switch, is we try to figure out what we're building towards and what can be accomplished this season to get to that goal. So before I just lose what little sanity I have left, I think we're going to call it here for tonight's episode. As always, thank you for tuning in and making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. We appreciate everybody that takes the time to comment on YouTube, takes the time to listen wherever you listen.
Thank you so much.
Continues to help Locked On Wild continue to vault to the top of the list. And regardless of if this team wins their next game or loses 20 in a row, Locked On Wild will be there every single day to take you through this season with vent sessions and whatever else we need to do. So make sure that you continue to join us. If you like what you hear, make sure you leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, and we'll catch you on tomorrow's episode. And we'll hopefully have some answers for you as we continue to navigate through this season. You can find new episodes as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.